decrypting the evidence the public never saw. You are watching Bodycam Story Vault. Prepare yourself.
Morning. You fellas lost? Need directions somewhere?
Actually, we're looking for you. We got an anonymous tip about an illegal worker at this station.
That must be a mistake. I'm the captain here. I've worked at this station for 20 years, my friend.
I'm not your friend. You need to prove you're legally authorized to work at this.
The crew of Station 17 watched from the bay doors as IC agents approached their captain. They had served under Jerome Washington for years, some for over a decade. They had followed him into burning buildings, trusted him with their lives, trained under his command. They knew his father had served at the same station. They knew his grandfather had been one of the first black firefighters in Atlanta. They knew he had been born 6 blocks away and had never lived anywhere else. And they watched as Agent Kyle Braddock demanded their captain prove he was legally authorized to work in this country. They watched as Washington showed his credentials and was dismissed. They watched as he explained his family history and was ignored. They watched as handcuffs came out. And that's when Lieutenant Marcus Chin stepped forward with his phone already recording and said the words that would appear in every news report. You're about to handcuff a man who's saved more lives than you'll ever meet. And we're all witnesses. $9.8 million. Federal conviction. And a crew that stood behind their captain, the same way he had always stood in front of them. Station 17 sat on Boulevard Northeast in the old 4th Ward, the neighborhood that had shaped Atlanta's civil rights history, the neighborhood where Martin Luther King Jr. was born, the neighborhood where Jerome Washington had spent his entire life. The morning shift change happened at 7:30 a.m. Captain Washington arrived 8 minutes early, as he always did. His black Ford F-150 pulled into the side lot at 7:22 a.m. By 7:38 a.m., he was standing in front of the station greeting his crew. 20 years with Atlanta Fire Rescue. 8 years commanding Station 17. 3 Medals of Valor hanging in the station's trophy case. 200 firefighters trained at the academy. A career built on running toward danger while everyone else ran away. His father, Jerome Washington Sr., had served at this same station for 30 years before retiring in 1998. The photograph still hung in the common room. A younger version of the same face, the same captain's bars, the same pride. His grandfather, Samuel Washington, had been one of the first black firefighters hired by the Atlanta Fire Department in 1963. The integration had been contentious. The acceptance had been slow. But the Washingtons had stayed, had served, had earned their place through decades of sacrifice. 3 generations. 60 years. 1 station. This Tuesday morning, Captain Washington wore his crisp navy blue uniform shirt with gold captain's bars on the collar. His radio was clipped to his belt. His crew was preparing for the shift, Engineer Davis checking the rigs, Lieutenant Chun reviewing the morning briefing, firefighters Morrison and Jackson washing equipment in the bay. The 2 men approached from the street. Olive tactical vests, 10 cargo pants, black boots, ice insignia visible on their shoulders. Washington noticed them before they reached the station. The particular walk of officers with purpose. The scanning that preceded confrontation. He assumed they needed directions. The neighborhood had changed over the years. Gentrification bringing new residents who didn't know the streets the way he did. Morning. His voice carried the warmth of someone who had spent 20 years as a public servant. You fellas lost? Need directions somewhere. Agent Kyle Braddock stopped 5 feet from the captain. His partner positioned himself at an angle, the formation that would provide a second bodycam perspective. Actually, we're looking for you. Washington's expression shifted slightly. Curiosity replacing hospitality. Looking for me? What can I help you with? We got an anonymous tip about an illegal alien working at this station. The words landed on the concrete apron of Station 17, in front of the bay doors where 2 gleaming red fire engines waited, while the crew of firefighters Washington had commanded for 8 years watched from inside. An illegal alien? That's correct. We need to verify the immigration status of personnel here. Washington looked at the agents. At his station. At the 60 years of Washington family history that surrounded him. I'm the captain here. I've worked at this station for 20 years, my friend. Braddock's eyes scanned Washington's uniform. The captain's bars. The Atlanta Fire Rescue patches. The radio. The name tag that read J. Washington. Anyone can buy a uniform online. We need to see documentation proving you're legally authorized to work in this country. Documentation. Washington repeated the word with the calm that 20 years of emergency response had made instinctive. You're asking me for papers. At my own fire station. We're conducting an investigation based on a tip. An anonymous tip. The source is confidential. The source is wrong. I'm Captain Jerome Washington. I've been with Atlanta Fire Rescue for 20 years. I was born 6 blocks from here. Braddock's expression didn't change. His partner's Bodycam, Axon Body 2, timestamp 7 hours, 38 minutes, and 47 seconds, captured his posture. Skeptical. Certain. Everyone has a story. This isn't a story. This is documented fact. My personnel file is inside that station. My birth certificate is on file with the city. My entire career is a matter of public record. Records can be falsified. My records haven't been falsified. I've worked for the city of Atlanta for 2 decades. I've been background checked, drug tested, and vetted more times than you've probably conducted investigations. Inside the bay, Lieutenant Chun had stopped what he was doing. Engineer Davis had set down his clipboard. The crew was watching through the open doors, the particular attention of people witnessing something wrong. Sir, I'm going to need you to produce identification. I have identification. I have a Georgia driver's license. I have a city employee ID. I have credentials that prove exactly who I am. Washington reached slowly toward his back pocket. The movement of someone who understood how officers could interpret sudden gestures. He produced his wallet, extracted his driver's license, held it out. Jerome Elijah Washington. This address is 3 miles from here. I've lived in Atlanta my entire life. Braddock examined the license with theatrical suspicion. This proves residency. It doesn't prove citizenship. My birth certificate proves citizenship. I was born at Grady Memorial Hospital. The midwife who delivered me still lives in this neighborhood. Her name is Mrs. Henrietta Collins. She's 87 years old. She'll vouch for me. I don't verify identities through elderly witnesses. Then how do you verify them? Because I'm offering you every piece of evidence a reasonable person would need. At the field office. We can verify everything there. I'm not going to any field office. I have a 24-hour shift that started 8 minutes ago. I have a crew depending on me. I have a city that pays me to protect it. Braddock's partner spoke for the first time, quietly, directed at his colleague. Kyle, maybe we should check with the fire department. We'll verify through proper channels. He's showing us credentials. He says he's the captain. Anyone can claim to be the captain. That's why we verify. Washington looked at the partner. At his body cam. At the doubt visible in his posture. What's your name? Agent Reeves. Agent Reeves, your partner is about to make a serious mistake. I'm giving both of you the opportunity to make a phone call, verify my identity, and walk away from this without consequences. Sir, we're just following up on a tip. A tip from who? Did you verify the source? Did you check whether the information was credible before you drove to a fire station and accused a captain of being an illegal alien? Silence. You didn't verify anything, did you? You got a phone call about a black man at a fire station, and you came straight here without doing basic investigative work. Braddock stepped closer. We're going to need you to come with us. I'm not going anywhere. Washington's voice dropped to the register he used when commanding scenes. Calm, authoritative, absolute. And before you do something you can't undo, let me tell you exactly who you're dealing with. He gestured to the station behind him. I was born 6 blocks from here. Grady Memorial Hospital. December 14th, 1976. My mother was in labor for 16 hours. Mrs. Henrietta Collins delivered me because the doctor was busy with another patient. He pointed to the photograph visible through the station windows, his father in dress uniform, captain's bars gleaming. My father was a firefighter at this station for 30 years. Jerome Washington Sr. He retired in 1998. His retirement ceremony was held right here, in this bay, with 300 people in attendance. He let the word settle. My grandfather was one of the first black firefighters hired by the Atlanta Fire Department. 1963, 6 years before I was born. Samuel Washington. There's a plaque inside that station with his name on it. Braddock's face showed nothing, but his partner's expression had shifted, the recognition of someone hearing a history that couldn't be fabricated. 3 generations of Washingtons have served this city from this station. 60 years of family history. And you're standing here asking me to prove I'm American. Family histories don't verify immigration status. My family history is American history. My grandfather integrated this department. My father commanded this station. I've served this city for 20 years, longer than you've probably been in law enforcement. Sir, I've earned 3 medals of valor. Do you know what that means? It means I've risked my life to save people. It means I've gone into buildings that were about to collapse and carried people out. It means I've done things that most people only see in movies. He held up his hand, showing the scarring on his palm. This is from the Buckhead Grand Hotel fire in 2009. I pulled 9 people out of that building. The ceiling collapsed 20 seconds after I got the last guest through the door. He touched his left shoulder. This is from a warehouse collapse in 2017. I went back for 2 of my firefighters who were trapped. Took a beam across the shoulder. Spent 6 weeks in physical therapy. He looked Braddock directly in the eyes. I've bled for this city. I've sacrificed for this city. And you're asking me to prove I belong here. Sir, regardless of your service record, my service record is why I belong here. My service record is why I'm standing in this uniform, at this station, commanding this crew. Not because of paperwork, because of what I've done. Inside the bay, the crew had moved closer to the doors. Lieutenant Chun had his phone in his hand. Engineer Davis stood with arms crossed, watching. You got an anonymous tip. Did you consider that it might be false? Did you consider that someone might be targeting me? Did you consider that the tip itself might be the crime? We investigate all tips. You investigate. You verify. You confirm before you accuse. That's how legitimate law enforcement works. I don't need a fire captain telling me how to do my job. Apparently you do. Because a first-year recruit at the fire academy knows you verify information before you act on it. You don't roll up to someone's workplace and accuse them of being illegal based on a phone call you didn't check. Braddock reached for his handcuffs. You're being detained pending verification of your status. You're making a career-ending mistake. That's what everyone says. I'm not everyone. And in about 30 seconds, you're going to understand exactly why. Lieutenant Marcus Chin stepped out of the bay doors before Braddock's hand reached the cuffs. His phone was already raised. Recording. The screen showing a clear view of both agents and his captain. You're about to handcuff a man who's saved more lives than you'll ever meet. Braddock turned. Behind Chun, the entire crew of Station 17 was emerging. 8 firefighters in navy blue uniforms, several with phones raised, all watching with the particular intensity of people who would not stand by in silence. And we're all witnesses. Sir, step back. This is a federal matter. This is our captain. This is our station. And you're about to do something that every camera here is going to document. Engineer Davis moved to Chin's left. His voice carried the growl of a 23-year veteran. Captain Washington trained me 20 years ago, when I was a scared recruit who didn't know which end of a hose to hold. He made me the firefighter I am. Firefighter Morrison stepped forward on Chin's right. He pulled me out of a structure fire in 2019. Roof came down. I was trapped. He went back in when everyone else said it was too dangerous. Firefighter Jackson joined the line. His father trained my father. That's 2 generations of Washingtons teaching 2 generations of Jacksons how to save lives. The crew formed a semicircle behind their captain. Not threatening. Not aggressive. Simply present. Simply witnessing. Simply refusing to let this happen in silence. Braddock's partner had taken several steps back. His bodycam captured his face, the expression of someone recognizing catastrophe. Kyle, maybe we should. Stay out of this. There are 8 witnesses. 8 cameras. This is going to be documented from every angle. I don't care about cameras. I care about verifying status. Chin lowered his phone slightly, just enough to speak directly to Braddock. His status is captain. His status is 20 years of service. His status is 3 medals of valor. His status is the son and grandson of firefighters who served this station before he was born. That doesn't prove citizenship. What would prove it? What piece of paper would satisfy you? Because I'm looking at a man who has bled for this city, who has run into burning buildings while everyone else ran out, who has saved lives that you'll never know about. What documentation proves citizenship better than that? Braddock's hand closed around his handcuffs. He's being detained. Then you're detaining all of us. Because we're not going to stand here and watch you humiliate our captain. Chin stepped forward. Davis stepped forward. Morrison and Jackson stepped forward. The entire crew moved as one, not to obstruct, but to witness, to document, to ensure that whatever happened next would be seen by everyone. Captain Washington. Chin addressed his commander directly. Whatever happens, we've got you. Every camera here is recording. Every firefighter here will testify. You're not alone. Washington looked at his crew, at the men and women he had trained, commanded, and led into danger for years, at the family that Station 17 had become. Stand down. All of you. Document everything, but don't interfere. Let him do what he's going to do. Captain, that's an order. I've been through worse than this. What matters is that every camera catches what happens next. He turned back to Braddock. Go ahead. Do what you came to do. And understand that you're doing it in front of 8 witnesses, 8 cameras, and 60 years of Washington family history. Braddock grabbed his arm. Turn around. Washington turned. His hands moved behind his back. The handcuffs clicked. And 8 firefighters stood in the morning sun, phones raised, watching their captain detained in front of his own station. Atlanta Fire Rescue Chief Patricia Okonkwo was in her vehicle within 90 seconds of receiving Lieutenant Chen's call. Chief, you need to get to Station 17. Now, what's happening? ICE agents just handcuffed Captain Washington. In front of the station. In front of all of us. They did what? They're claiming they got an anonymous tip about an illegal alien. They're detaining him for verification. Jerome Washington? Whose father served at that station? Whose grandfather was one of the first black firefighters in the department? Yes, ma'am. I'm on my way. The chief's SUV covered the distance from headquarters to Station 17 in 11 minutes. She arrived to find a scene that would define her administration's response to civil rights violations. Her captain in handcuffs. 2 ICE agents beside a federal vehicle. 8 firefighters with phones raised. The morning sun illuminating the Atlanta Fire Rescue logo on the station's facade. She was out of the vehicle before the engine fully stopped. What the hell is going on here? Braddock turned. He saw the chief's vehicle. The insignia. The woman approaching with the particular authority of someone who commanded thousands of personnel. Ma'am, this is a federal matter. That man is my captain. Jerome Washington. 20 years of service. 3 medals of valor. What possible reason do you have for putting him in handcuffs? We received a tip about an undocumented individual. A tip? You handcuffed one of my most decorated officers based on a tip. We're verifying his status. His status is verified. I verified it myself when I promoted him to captain 8 years ago. I verified it when I pinned his 3rd Medal of Valor on his chest. I verified it every time I've signed his performance evaluations for 2 decades. She stopped directly in front of Braddock. I want your badge number. I want your supervisor's name. And I want my captain uncuffed right now. Ma'am, I can't. You can. You detained a city employee at his workplace based on an unverified anonymous tip. You did so without contacting the department, without checking personnel records, without doing any of the basic verification that your job requires. She produced her phone. I'm calling the mayor. I'm calling the city attorney. And I'm calling every news outlet in Atlanta. By the time I'm done, your face will be on every screen in this city. You can't threaten. I'm not threatening. I'm informing you of what's about to happen. You've made a choice. Now you get to live with the consequences. Her fingers moved across the phone screen. Jerome. She addressed Washington directly, her voice softening. Are you injured? No, ma'am. Just detained. We're going to fix this. Every camera here has documented what happened. Every firefighter here is a witness. This ends today. She looked at Chun. Lieutenant, has anyone contacted the media? Not yet, Chief. Do it now. CNN, WSB, AJC. All of them. Tell them there's a story at Station 17. Braddock's face had gone pale. His partner had retreated to the vehicle, the posture of someone trying to create distance from catastrophe. Ma'am, if you'll just let us verify. Verify what? His birth certificate is on file with the city. His personnel record goes back 20 years. His father's service record goes back 50 years. His grandfather's integration of this department is documented in the city archives. She stepped closer. What more verification do you need? What piece of paper would satisfy you that a man who has saved more lives than you've probably ever met is actually American? Braddock had no answer. That's what I thought. The investigation that followed would expose exactly how thin the pretext had been. The anonymous tip was traced within 48 hours. A burner phone, purchased with cash at a convenience store in Cobb County. The call had lasted 37 seconds. The voice, later identified through audio analysis, belonged to a man named Derek Whitman, a resident of Marietta with a documented history of making false reports to IC. Whitman had made 7 prior calls to the ICE tip line. All had targeted black professionals. A doctor at Emory, an engineer at Georgia Tech, a teacher at a Fulton County elementary school. All had been unfounded. All had been filed and forgotten. The pattern was clear. Whitman was weaponizing immigration enforcement against black people he decided didn't belong in professional positions. But Whitman hadn't acted alone. The investigation revealed that he had found Captain Washington's name through a neighborhood Facebook group. A post celebrating the station's anniversary had included photos of the crew. Whitman had seen Washington's face and decided that a black fire captain warranted a phone call to ICE. Agent Kyle Braddock had received the tip and responded without verification. No check of fire department personnel records. No call to the station. No basic investigative work that would have confirmed Washington's 20-year employment in under 5 minutes. His case file showed a pattern of similar responses. 12 prior investigations based on anonymous tips, all targeting black or Hispanic professionals, all unfounded, all conducted without proper verification. His social media accounts completed the picture. Posts mocking diversity hires in public safety. Comments about certain people taking jobs they hadn't earned. Membership in online groups where users shared strategies for reporting suspicious minorities to immigration authorities. Text messages to fellow agents revealed the ideology. Got another tip about a fire captain. Probably affirmative action. Worth checking out. These diversity hires think a uniform makes them American. Easy verification. If they're legit, no harm done. If they're not, we got one. The no harm done philosophy had guided Braddock's approach. The assumption that false positives were acceptable. The belief that the burden of proving citizenship fell on anyone he decided to investigate. Captain Washington's personnel file told a different story than Braddock had imagined. Born December 14, 1976. Grady Memorial Hospital. Birth certificate on file with Fulton County since 1976. Hired by Atlanta Fire Rescue on March 3, 2004. Background check completed. Citizenship verified. Social Security number confirmed. Promoted to engineer, 2009. Promoted to lieutenant, 2014. Promoted to captain, 2016. 3 Medals of Valor. Firefighter of the Year, 2015. Fire Instructor 2 certification. Hazmat Technician certification. Every document verified. Every record legitimate. Every piece of evidence confirming what Washington had told Braddock from the first moment. He was exactly who he claimed to be. The FBI Civil Rights Division opened an investigation within 72 hours. The charges being considered: deprivation of rights under color of law, conspiracy to violate civil rights, false imprisonment. Derek Whitman, the man who had made the call, was also under investigation. Filing false reports with federal agencies. Conspiracy to deprive civil rights. The weaponization of immigration enforcement against innocent Americans. Both men would face federal charges. Both men would pay for what they had done. But the investigation revealed something larger than individual misconduct. It revealed a system where anonymous tips could trigger enforcement actions without verification, where agents could handcuff American citizens based on phone calls they never checked, where the burden of proof fell on the accused rather than the accuser. That system was about to change. The full scope of Braddock's conduct emerged through digital forensics that left nothing hidden. 12 prior investigations over 4 years. All based on anonymous tips. All targeting minorities. All unfounded. A black surgeon at Grady Memorial Hospital, detained in the parking garage for 40 minutes before verification confirmed her American citizenship. A Hispanic professor at Georgia State University, questioned in his office in front of students before department records proved his status. A black attorney at a downtown firm, stopped on the street and asked for documentation while walking to court. Each one had been released after verification. Each one had filed complaints. Each complaint had been dismissed as proper procedure or good faith investigation. The pattern was invisible in isolation. Documented together, it revealed systematic targeting that had terrorized innocent professionals for years. Braddock's stop records showed the methodology. He responded exclusively to tips about minorities in professional settings. He never investigated tips about white individuals. He never verified sources before responding. He never checked employer records before confronting targets. His text messages showed the philosophy. Better safe than sorry. If they're legal, they'll understand. These people should be grateful we're being thorough. One verified illegal makes up for 100 false positives. The false positives were American citizens. Doctors, lawyers, teachers, firefighters. People whose only crime was being black or Hispanic in positions that Braddock decided they didn't deserve. His partner, Agent Reeves, was interviewed separately. His cooperation would determine whether he faced charges or merely termination. Did you believe Captain Washington's credentials were legitimate? I had doubts about the investigation from the beginning. Did you express those doubts? I suggested we verify with the fire department. Kyle refused. When Chief Okonkwo arrived and confirmed Captain Washington's identity, what went through your mind? Silence. Agent Reeves. I knew Kyle had made a terrible mistake. I knew he had made similar mistakes before. I should have stopped it. Derek Whitman, the anonymous tipster, was arrested 3 weeks after the incident. His phone records revealed the full extent of his campaign. 43 calls to ICE over 2 years. All targeting minorities. All providing false information about illegal aliens in professional positions. He had found his targets through social media, news articles, and professional announcements. Anytime a black or Hispanic person was featured in local media for professional achievement, Whitman considered it an opportunity. His interviews revealed the motivation. These people are taking jobs from real Americans. Someone has to do something. I was just reporting what I suspected. It's not my fault if ICE investigates. If they're really citizens, they have nothing to worry about. The nothing to worry about had cost Captain Washington his dignity. It had cost taxpayers millions in legal liability. It had cost public trust in immigration enforcement. And it had cost Whitman his freedom. The federal grand jury convened 8 weeks after the incident. Braddock was indicted on civil rights violations, false imprisonment, and deprivation of rights under color of law. Whitman was indicted on conspiracy charges and filing false federal reports. Both would face trial. Both would face consequences. And the pattern that had allowed them to operate for years would finally be exposed. The federal courtroom in Atlanta filled to capacity every day of the trial. Firefighters in dress uniforms. Civil rights advocates. Media from across the country. Captain Washington testified on the 3rd day. He wore his dress uniform. Navy blue, gold buttons, 3 Medal of Valor ribbons on his chest. The uniform he had earned through 20 years of service. On the morning of the incident, I arrived at Station 17 for my regular shift. I was greeting my crew when Agent Braddock approached and informed me he had received a tip about an illegal alien working at the station. What was your response? I told him I was the captain. I had worked at that station for 20 years. I was born 6 blocks away. How did Agent Braddock respond? He said anyone could buy a uniform online. He said he needed documentation proving I was legally authorized to work in this country. The bodycam footage was played for the jury. They watched Braddock approach. They watched Washington explain his history. They watched the crew emerge from the bay doors with phones raised. They watched the handcuffs applied to a 20-year veteran in front of his own station. Captain Washington, what was going through your mind when you were handcuffed? I was thinking about my father. He served at that station for 30 years. He used to bring me there as a kid. I knew every corner of that building before I ever wore the uniform. He paused. I was thinking about my grandfather. He was one of the first black firefighters in Atlanta. 1963. He faced things I can't imagine. Racism, discrimination, colleagues who didn't want him there. But he stayed. He served. He proved he belonged. His voice remained steady. And I was standing in handcuffs, being asked to prove the same thing he had to prove 60 years ago. The crew of Station 17 testified one by one. Lieutenant Chun described the captain who had trained him. Engineer Davis described the mentor who had made him a firefighter. Morrison described being rescued from a collapsing structure. Jackson described 2 generations of Washingtons teaching 2 generations of Jacksons. Chief Okonkwo testified about Washington's service record, the Medals of Valor, the Firefighter of the Year award, the 200 recruits he had trained. Captain Washington represents everything this department stands for. Courage, service, sacrifice. He has given 20 years of his life to protecting Atlanta, and he was treated like a criminal for showing up to work. The defense attempted the standard arguments. Following procedure. Responding to a tip. No way to know. The prosecutor's rebuttal was surgical. No way to know. The captain showed him credentials. The captain explained his family history. The captain offered verification through the fire department. 8 firefighters identified their captain. Agent Braddock ignored all of it because he had already decided what he was looking at. She displayed his stop records. 12 investigations. All minorities. All unfounded. This wasn't immigration enforcement. This was harassment. And Captain Washington was victim 13, the first one whose crew stood behind him and documented everything. The jury deliberated for 5 hours. Guilty on all counts. Braddock and Whitman both. Washington watched from the gallery as the verdicts were read. His crew sat behind him. The same firefighters who had emerged from the bay doors, phones raised, refusing to let their captain face this alone. Justice had been delivered by a system that worked when witnesses ensured it couldn't fail. The sentencing hearing brought closure that the trial had only begun. Agent Braddock, you were entrusted with the authority to enforce immigration law. Instead, you used that authority to harass, detain, and humiliate American citizens based on the color of their skin. Your pattern of conduct spans years. Your targeting was systematic. Your refusal to verify was willful. The judge reviewed the pre-sentencing materials with visible contempt. When you handcuffed Captain Washington, you didn't just violate his rights. You insulted 60 years of family service. You demeaned 3 generations of firefighters who dedicated their lives to protecting Atlanta. You proved that for some officers, no amount of service, no number of medals, no depth of history is enough to overcome the assumption that a black man doesn't belong. Braddock's sentence, 5 years federal prison. Enhanced for pattern of conduct. Enhanced for targeting under color of authority. Derek Whitman received 3 years for conspiracy and filing false federal reports. Both were led from the courtroom in handcuffs. The civil settlement followed within 3 months. The Department of Homeland Security agreed to pay $9.8 million rather than face a trial that would expose systemic failures across multiple field offices. Captain Washington directed the distribution with the same precision he applied to fire operations. For $1 million to establish the Samuel Washington Scholarship Fund, named for his grandfather, providing full tuition for minorities pursuing careers in fire service and public safety. $2 million to the Atlanta Firefighters Burn Foundation, supporting the families of injured firefighters and burn victims throughout Georgia. $2 million to civil rights organizations focused on immigration enforcement accountability. The remaining funds secured his family's future. His twins, Jerome III and Marcus, would graduate from the Fire Academy without debt. His daughter Destiny would complete Spelman. His youngest, Samuel, would have college covered when the time came. ICE entered a consent decree requiring mandatory source verification before responding to anonymous tips. The no harm done philosophy that had guided agents like Braddock would finally face oversight. Captain Washington returned to Station 17 the shift after his release from handcuffs. Same crew, same command, same station where 3 generations of his family had served. The only change was the photograph that now hung in the common room. Not his Medal of Valor ceremonies. Not his Firefighter of the Year award. The photograph showed 8 firefighters standing in the morning sun, phones raised, forming a semicircle behind their captain. The crew that had refused to let him face injustice alone. 6 months after the verdict, Jerome Washington III and Marcus Washington graduated from the Atlanta Fire Academy. Their father pinned their badges in a ceremony held at Station 17, the same station where their grandfather had served, where their great-grandfather had been one of the first black firefighters in the city. For generations. 61 years. One family. The Washington legacy continued. Captain Washington still arrives early for every shift. Still greets his crew in front of the station. Still wears the uniform that Braddock had dismissed as something anyone can buy online. The uniform means something. The captain's bars mean something. The 60 years of family service means something. And the crew of Station 17 knows exactly what it means to stand behind their captain, the same way he has always stood in front of them, first through every door, leading them into danger, bringing them home safe. The anonymous tip line still exists, but the protocols have changed. Verification is mandatory, and somewhere in Atlanta, a fire captain teaches the next generation what his grandfather taught his father, what his father taught him. Service is the answer. Always has been. Always will be.
Every entry confirms a reality. We value your viewership. Subscribe to remain securely inside the vault.